out there, and welcome to your enlightenment program, The Economy and Inside Agriculture, where we focus on making analysis across sectors of the economy and their various contributions to the growth and development of our dear country's economy. I am Ile Emeje. Experts in infrastructural development have asserted that innovations in engineering, especially on civil engineering, is very imperative to solving societal problems like poverty alleviation and economic sustainability. Efficient innovations on civil engineering is highly relevant to Nigeria's economy as it drives growth across key sectors like manufacturing, energy, and infrastructure by designing, developing, and maintaining machineries and systems which also help to alleviate poverty, fosters technological advancement, reduces import reliance, and enhances national industrialization. Civil engineers, or civil engineering as the case may be, are said to also contribute to environmental sustainability by mitigating emissions in crucial oil and gas sector and by developing more efficient and effective infrastructure development systems. This can be through designs, increase efficiency and productivity, and fosters the growth of local industries. According to reports, civil engineering and engineers design and construct essential infrastructures like buildings, bridges, water systems and transportation networks, and also network of roads, railways, airports, and improving national growth. Now, the questions demanding for an answer in the minds of so many citizens is on the key performance of civil engineering in Nigeria and their contribution to the development and the way forward of Nigeria. In this episode of your program, the acting head of Civil Engineering Department of the African University of Science and Technology, Dr. Olusegun Toluhi, will be my guest immediately after the promo, and he's going to take a look at the topic we caption as National Growth and Development of Nations, including our dear country Nigeria, the Civil Engineering Initiative. He will join us immediately after the promo. Stay with us.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
So glad to have you join us on this interesting episode of your regular program on the economy and inside agriculture. And our guest, who is the acting head of Department of Civil Engineering of the Abuja African University of Science and Technology, AUST, Dr. Olusegun Toluhi, is here, and he'll be taking us on the topic we caption as National Growth and Development of Nations, the Civil Engineering Initiative. Doctor, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, viewers. Good morning.
Thank you. All right, let's start with this, my recurrent decimal question. And it's on, I want you to tell us your opinion as to whether science, engineering, and technology innovation are key to national development, especially that of Nigeria.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much once again. Yes, there's no two ways about it. Science is very key.
All right.
Very key. But engineering is even more key. Because what engineering does is it takes all the precepts of science and interprets it for the good of the community, for the good of society. So when you're looking at engineering, engineering is actually learning wheels to science to deliver value. So in that regard, without a doubt, in my mind, engineering is key, even as science is key. So that engineering interprets science for the use of man.
Now, if you call economists or experts in economics, they'll tell you the economy is key. Experts in agriculture is key. And now engineering is key to the development of our society, not just that of Nigeria, but the general society across the world and that of Nigeria. All right. There's this serious assumption that our economy cannot function without civil engineers, with its attendant impact as everything, especially infrastructure, including roads, quality buildings, bridges, and drainage systems, are expertly designed and crafted by civil engineers. How true or otherwise?
Nothing can be more true. That was the point I was trying to make earlier on.
Okay.
You see, when you came on with the economist what they do is take all the facts and the data and try to interpret it.
Yeah.
And these days, all those things are mounted on, it's called the big data.
Yeah.
They are mounted on computers and softwares and the rest of it. That infrastructure needs to be crafted by engineers. Wherever you want to look, agriculturists can come and tell you, oh, this is what we do, that is what we do. But the engineers are the ones that facilitate for them, one, to be able to do all the cadastre for the farmlands and be able to take the goods out of the farms even to the markets. You need to use some roads to get that done. And you need to have the kind of climate that will be able, that is predictable, so that you can do your farming where you ought to do it. So engineers are the ones that think of all those facilities. So now all those facilities become the underlying thing which you call infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that infrastructure, engineers look at the laws of science, interpret it, and make it applicable to everyday life. So totally, if you're looking at development, whichever angle you're looking at it from, you need engineers to be able to interpret what you're doing so that it can facilitate what you want to deliver.
So can we be right at this point to say that engineers too, including civil engineers, are also part of the major drivers of the global economy, including Nigeria?
They are not part. They are the fundamental.
Fundamental?
Totally fundamental. Engineering is fundamental to whatsoever it is you want to do. So it's being part, except you're now trying to qualify that part as a significant or predominant part, because it underlines it. Because you will not get value until an engineer comes into the scene and facilitates what you're doing.
Okay. Now, you have established the fact that engineers are the fundamental drivers of the economy.
Absolutely.
If I may put it that way. Okay. How well, if what you have said is true, how well can you think that Nigerian engineers have fared, given our infrastructural issues we have in Nigeria?
Okay. This question is always recurrent, but let me state this. It is very recurrent, but let me state this. You see, engineering is not plucked from the air. It's a system.
Yeah.
It's a system that has been built. a system, and once you build a system, you need to nurture it. Now, I'm not going to bother you with all the details, but let me give you these three fundamentals when you're talking about the practice of engineering.
Yeah.
You have what you call the equipment, the capacity. Capacity is the right tool for the right assignment. Because if I want to, for instance, give you an injection, I'm not going to bring a screwdriver. I'm going to need a needle. I'm going to need a needle that can be a syringe that will pass the chemical into your system. It has to be thin enough to get into your veins without hurting you. So that is the right equipment for the right applications. You understand what I'm saying? For the right events. So in engineering, there's a place for equipment, there's a place for skill, and that skill must be so that you can upgrade it. There's a place for funding, and there's a place for the understanding of the right application of the funding to meet the need of the people. So when you look at all those families, then you cannot now just sit down and judge engineering without balancing those drivers. So in Nigeria, we have the kind of infrastructures that we have, because basically we have neglected the things that we ought to do when we ought to do them. There's an appropriateness in the applications of the resources that you have to get the values that you need to get. In Nigeria, what we do is we build and we forget it. We completely don't understand that because you have built, you need to nurture. And let me take it again. You see, look, like I said, engineering build infrastructures. So what we do is you look at systems and you look at the deficiencies of that system, or you look at how to facilitate the system. Now, two things. You're either looking at the deficiencies or you're looking at how to facilitate it. That is to improve its productivity. So to do that, you need to understand first how it functions. Then you need to understand how you can facilitate it. And then you need to look at what kind of tools can I deploy to get them done. What kind of skills do I need to do that? And then how can I continue to monitor for sustainability? But in Nigeria, what we do, because everybody is driven by values that are not values looking forward. You're driven by values that just want to make it happen now because I want my name appended onto it. You're not looking at values like how will it serve generations that is coming? How would it continue to serve the functions that we say it should serve today? So when you begin to look at all that, then you now begin to look at each of the value chains and begin to deploy systems that would cater for that value chain so that it will work together in sync, and then in the end you will truly have what we call engineering project.
Now, this will take me, your explanation will take me to the next question.
Yes,
you know, a lot of people in Nigeria have this belief that the quality of engineers cutting across mechanical, civil, electrical engineers, or all forms of engineering, they have no quality at all. That the quality of engineers has become so low, and it has been attributed that the issues are from higher institutions of learning where graduates of engineering have issues. Now, you are the acting head of the Civil Engineering Department of the African University of Science and Technology. How do you differ? How does your institution differ in this area?
Thank you so very much. That is a very apt question. But you see, let me state it. Those who claim that might not be far from telling the truth. But again, it is a question of defining it within context.
How?
Now, that's what I want to try to say to do now. You see, education itself evolves. Universities, when they started, the important thing they want to do is to make you understand the thinking that they thought was superior to you. When that happened, it was called the first generation university. That was what you had, the one you had in Morocco, whatever, the first universities and the rest of it. You see, all they wanted to do was to pass information. From there, it evolves like every other thing. It evolved to what we call the second generation. And that's where you began to build structures. You began to build systems and to say, okay, look, I'm just not going to teach you humanities. I'm not going to teach you sciences so that you cannot begin to interpret, like I said, the laws for the use of human beings. So they left that and went to the third generation. And what's the third generation? That is when we now began to build serious machines and stuff to churn out mass-produced stuff. so that the eyeglasses you're wearing now, you don't need to create a mold for it every time you're building it. You just have a system that can produce 100, that can produce 1,000,000, and it just runs on the channels. You understand what I'm saying? But the world is getting into what we call the 4th generation university now. What is that saying? It's saying, look, whatever you learn, it must be for the good of your society, and you must be entrepreneurial about it. Now, most universities, especially in Africa, because of the infrastructures that we have, because of the limitations, again, quote and unquote, that might not be entirely ours, that has been foisted onto us by powers and authorities that try to govern what we do in the third economy, which was why they kept us being a third economy. Okay, so what they do is to ensure that we are not able to flex in such a way as to get to the 4th generation university. We are not able to now begin to look at systems, proffer solutions to them, and begin to mass produce them and add value to the thoughts that we have, so that it can better all our lives. So, but today, we are now beginning to look at it and say to us, the curriculum that we had, that was handed over to us by those masters, we call them colonial masters, which was simply given to us so that we can understand their thinking. Is it not about time we begin to look at it, so that we don't continue to take our cocoa from here to Switzerland and it comes back as
finished products,
chocolates and the rest of it, and they are creaming off on those things. So we are saying to ourselves, shouldn't we now begin to tweak our curriculum that delivers these understandings to us, that delivers these skills to us in the universities, that trains us in this curriculum that's training us? Can we not begin to tweak it in some ways? But you see, there's always a problem with change, because there are people who are in charge today, who are doing these things in the regulatory authorities like the university commissions, who feel, and you know, that's the problem of the arrogance of success. They feel that because they were taught this way, it should remain that way.
As it was.
So should it be. So there must be an advocacy that silently just revolutionizes not the system, but the thinking of the people who are taking decisions to make the system run. So when we begin to get into their hearts, begin to let them see with what little facilities we have, what we can do, maybe they will begin to see. And then another thing is the policy. Then the third thing is the will of the central authority to say, hey, let us begin to put people who are thinking more forwardly into places and not look at their age as per calendar, because the age of the calendar is just a number. The age of the idea is what pushes the world. So we need to begin to look at the age of the ideas that people bring, not minding where they brought it and what, so long as it works. So until we move away from the 1st and 2nd generation university and move into the 3rd and 4th, where places like Singapore, places like China already are operating right now. If you see the way they teach their students, you would understand that it's a disparity, the difference between the way they teach and the way we teach. So until we begin to look at that, we most probably might be going through this cycle, and people will be saying the quality of engineers is not very good. Not that the intelligence is not there. We have the intelligence, but intelligence means nothing other than a repository of information until you are able to act on it. So we need to begin to act on the intelligence that we have and make it effective. That way we will be getting education, not just knowledge.
And making all of this to become a possibility.
Yes.
You have emphasized on the curriculum, the policy, and the move, the ideology.
Absolutely.
Now, what do you think the government and all the stakeholders can do in terms of collaboration and synergy to ensuring the success of this move? If not, what should be our expectation in the near future? Because this belief is like, is it a belief system? No. I'll remember the word on the heart of many Nigerians, that the civil engineers or engineers that we are rolling out from institutions of learning in Nigeria cannot withstand the peculiarity of the problems we have or we had over the years and what we are going through at the moment. So as an institution, your institution is a science-based technological innovation institution.
Yes.
What are you doing to change the narrative as the head of Department of Civil Engineering?
Okay,
is there anything you are doing?
I will unbundle your question, because what you have asked me is a composite of 3 different families of questions. But I'll take the first one about the government.
Yeah.
About government. Government, who is government? You and I are government. And the only way government is going to deliver value is when it knows what that value is. So what is the level of advocacy? Those of us who have been led, we must advocate for those things that we think we need. Those things that we think will make life easier for us. We must be ready to advocate for it, whichever way we know how to do it legitimately and without rank or without upturning the peace of the society. But we cannot fold our arms and keep quiet. We need to continue to agitate, because that's the only thing that is going to bring it into the presence of those who can take decisions, so that they can take decisions on it. That's number one. The other leg of that concerning technology transfer and education and raising professionals in the engineering field is about, one, the regulatory agencies. I told you about the regulatory agencies. No matter how good you are, no matter how intelligent you are, that intelligence will be regulated for the good of society. If it is not regulated, the tendencies are you might go rogue. So those regulatory authorities must be, one, adequately empowered, two, adequately staffed, or better still, appropriately staffed. You must put the right people who are forward looking into the place, who can read the times and know what to do in the times that they are in and the times they are moving into. Today, for instance, the whole world is talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, how much of artificial intelligence is in our curriculum in raising our engineers? How much machine learning is in those things that we have inculcated in teaching our students? Are we still teaching them precepts, or we are teaching them practice that they would need when they go out there? So those are all the things that we need to look at. So that is in the part of regulation of the things that we need to do. And it takes me to the next family of what questions. I told you asked me a composite question. The next one that you asked me was simply, hey, what do we need to begin to do at the institutions? I spoke to it earlier on. We must migrate away from the fundamental and begin to make progress on the fundamental that we have. We must leave, because most universities in Nigeria today are still in the second generation. We are still there. We are rooted there. And you will be shocked that today people want to teach you, and what they are using to teach you is that notebook that was used to train them. And this man has been out of school for over 40, 50 years.
Things have changed.
Okay, and things, because the truth is, system has moved away from those understanding. Those understandings were true some 3 decades ago, but it's no longer right. Things have moved on. So and that's why today we import equipment that are already obsolete, and we don't even know how to get parts to fix them. And then you blame the engineer that has been detailed to maintaining it. Because every time it raises an invoice, let's buy this equipment, you're going to have to go back to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will go back into the factory to produce for you. You can't go to over the counter and buy them. So those are the issues we need to tweak. So the universities must sit back and truly meet with themselves, okay, objectively, and know that they can relate with the regulatory commission, and let the regulatory commission see through what the university is saying. Because in the end, the university are the people who are faced with training these students, and they know the problems better than the man who is in the office in a regulatory commission and trying to say this is how it must be done. We must begin to shift quietly. And then finally, coming home to AUST, we have AUST runs on a tripodal philosophy. Number one is that we are a project-based learning institute.
How do you mean?
And I would explain that. Because you must understand, AUST started as a research university, and they were only raising postgrads, masters and PhD, and it was based on research. And from there we have said, okay, look, we are going to now begin to talk about undergrads. And if we want to begin to talk about undergrads, how do we do it? We now begin to look at, we must begin to quietly move onto the third and the fourth generation university, like I said to you, and that in the things that we do, we must now begin to inculcate team dynamics. Because listen, a lady, I think, Margaret Mitchell, says something that all sorts of things can happen when you play around with things. All sorts of things can happen when you play around with things. I repeated that for emphasis. Now, you need to begin to let students truly get into their elements in the things that you are teaching them in the classroom. Let them be able to visualize it. The way you deliver it must be such that you have a project. If, for instance, I'm going to teach you thermodynamics, I must see what best way can I make thermodynamics, how best way can I make thermodynamics alive to you. The best way is to get a refrigerator or to get an AC. Okay, and I bring an AC and give you a project. This AC, I remove something out of it, and I'm saying to you, this AC, what should it do? You tell me what it does, and I say, look, put it on. Is it doing it? No. Find out for me why is it not doing that. But in the class, I am telling you how ACs need to function. So what you do for a smart student, and I'm invigilating that and making sure you're working, you are looking at both and say, oh, okay, this is what this man is trying to connect. This was what was said in class. And then you begin to see and how to visualize it, whether we like it or not. Certain engineering feats have been achieved. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. What we need to do is to unbundle it, understanding, then build on our understanding of that, on how to launch ourselves into something higher. Every country that has moved ahead in the world has always done that. Japan started it. China is doing it. Today, Korea is doing it. And we see what they have got done. Singapore is done it. You understand what I'm saying? And under our nose, Ghana is beginning to unbundle theories and to look into practice. We need to begin to do stuff like that to ourselves. And that is what AUST is putting out. That is project-based learning. Coming from the fact that we are a research institution and we are doing a whole lot of research right now in many fields of engineering, because engineering itself does have its own value chain, and we are looking at those value chain and seeing how can we optimize this value chain to deliver purpose going forward. And then the final leg is that entrepreneurial spirit. Whatever we already have outfits right now, we have centers at the university that is entrepreneurial. You understand what I'm saying? The other day I ran into, I've forgotten her name, one doctor, and she just opened up a sewing institute in the university. And what does she want to do? She wants to begin to teach people. Do you know how much couture is selling and bringing to the world in Italy? Do you know how much couture is bringing out to Italy? That's earning in Italy every day. Do you know what couture is doing in America today? So if that woman, I saw her and I said, okay, look, I took a mentor that I was going to have to sit down and speak with her. She's bringing the students in and teaching them how to sew. There is another one, CPDI. Fashion designing AUST. And we are teaching them in the class.
Graduates into fashion
We are
design.
teaching them in the class what sewing and stitches is all about. And we are taking them into that institute. And they are learning truly how to truly sew. Double, one, whatever kind of name you're calling it.
What is students' response or participation?
Awesome. You need to see how interested they are, because basically you can't just look. You and I, our attention span is not as wide as you think. If we sit down here for the next 45 minutes, we'll begin to bore ourselves. It's scientifically proven. So if I sit down with here, that's why you have lunch breaks. If I sit down with here and have 30 minutes and 40 minutes discuss with you, it's only logical that we go out and just stretch ourselves and come back. You'll see that we are reactivated to learn even more. Okay? That is the curve of learning. It's a synclinorium. We call it synclinorium. Okay, yeah. It's a learning curve. It goes up and down. Yeah. So you can't just keep people and furnish them information, give them information. It gets to the point where that information becomes an overload. And once you get it overload, and you don't get anything anymore. Nothing. So you just come into the class and somebody just keeps reeling theories and theories and theories at you, and you get out of your class, you don't even know what the theories are talking about. Except to just memorize and pour down, so that you just be able to. So we are not regurgitating in AUST. We are teaching. We are raising professionals. We are raising people who would be fit for the market and be future ready.
We are raising people that will be future
for the market,
ready.
Future ready.
You agree with me that many institutions of higher learning in Nigeria, universities inclusive, are yet to, I say, arrive that level where they will have enough or adequate machineries, equipment, and other things, computers. And as we speak, there are some universities who roll out graduates in computer science, and a lot of them don't even know, they are not conversant with computer itself. What advice do you have for such institutions? And again, just after that, you are aware that in Nigeria, we hear of building collapse, road and bridges collapse, and the rest of them. These problems are there, year in and year out. You have told us here that the AUST is doing what we can call knowledge and skill-based
project-based learning.
Project-based learning, which include knowledge and skills.
Absolutely.
And skills.
Absolutely.
But there are so many universities that are yet to arrive or to get to that level. So what would be your advice to them?
You see, a Ghanaian, one Ghanaian, I love him, Pan-African. I think his name is Mensa Otabil. He says something in a book he wrote. I think he wrote the book some few decades, I don't know the year exactly. The title of the book is Buy the Future. Buy the Future. In that book he said, if you want to change the culture of a man, what you do is you change what the man dwell upon. So if I want to change the narrative of your life, I start by trying to give you things that will make you see differently than you're seeing right now. So it tells me that in the universities, if you want to, like the example you gave about computer science and not ever having seen computer before, you can't change that abruptly. You know why? Because the man who is teaching you has his mindset locked up somewhere 2-3 decades ago. And you see, it brings again the issue of Albert Einstein. He said the problem we face today cannot be solved at the point we were at when we created them. So it means we need to move forward and ahead to be able to understand what was yesterday so that we can proffer solutions today. The problem is our universities are solving today's problem with yesterday's solution. We need to begin to look for solutions tomorrow to solve our problems today, which is what the whole world is doing. So for the computer scientist, we need to begin to quietly, when you know, like this kind of program we are having, right? You bring people who are forward-looking in computer science, people who have trained in some other climes. You bring them, they come to talk to the community, they come to talk to the educational society, they come to talk to decision makers in those things, and tell them, not just come sit down and critique, but you bring out solutions, because a critic who has no solutions put on the table is just made a lot of noise. So you bring the solutions and put it right there on the table and iron out and create avenues where people can come and learn those things and take it forward. I think that is what we need to do, because it is tough to change the mindset of people who think that they are experts in their field. Okay, so and to answer your last question, except you don't want to get an answer to that. You said there are a lot of building collapses.
Yes.
The building collapses, I say to you, you see, in engineering and engineering solutions, there's a place for skill. There's a place for equipment, like we said. There's a place for funds. And finally, you know, there's a common denominator to those three, is the culture of the people. If you get to Asia today, you see that most of their buildings, they're just not doing brick and mortar. They're doing a lot of bamboo, a lot of wood. You can see their roof and the rest of it. Okay? And they have people who are coming from yesterday who can teach those skills. And the discipline of that training transfers into the use of modern materials. You understand that? So I ask you, what is our culture in Nigeria? Our culture in Nigeria is, like we said earlier on, we don't like changes. We say we want to do it the way my father did it. It is different, because you can't build a concrete house that you're suspending 3 or 4 floors like you built your hut that is just only 1 floor and it's just mud. Are you saying that?
Yes.
So those buildings collapse for a lot of reasons. One of them is the control. What is development? Don't we have development control in Nigeria? We do the development control. Who are the people in development control? How adequate are they in their training? How many retraining programs have they been through? You understand? So can they adequately monitor what is happening in the marketplace? And now, when they actually do put their stamp on the drawing, are they checking the staff, the people that is deployed to do the building? How are those people doing the building trade? So there are a lot of things, and the kind of products we have in our market. Do you know, the other day we were trying to get steel that is 16 mm, and you cannot get a 16 mm diameter in the market. What you get is maybe 14.550, and nobody's checking it. What is standards doing? So all those things culminate into collapse building.
In 10 seconds,
Yes.
what is AUST doing to change the narrative in civil engineering?
In civil engineering,
Rwanda.
I just told you, madam, in civil engineering, right now in AUST, we have a whole lot of research going on in one of the most important element in building roads. That is the asphalt. Asphalt has its history. In asphalt, you have what we call, mainly in Nigeria, we use what we call the cut back bitumen to make our asphalt. What is cut back bitumen? Cut back bitumen is the bitumen we get from the fractional distillation of petroleum.
All right.
So what it means is that there's a lot of legislation that must be rolled on it if it will continue to function. What is it? Because bitumen is a dense distillate of the fractional distillation of petroleum oil. So if your car fails on a road, for instance, and you bring it and empty the engine on the road, and petroleum is on the road, your diesel is on the road, petroleum and diesel is a lighter distillate. The law of chemistry is denser distillate will dissolve in lighter distillate. So when you pour and manage and fix your car on a road that is built, you have killed that road, because petrol will fall on the bitumen, diesel will fall on the bitumen, and it will dissolve the bitumen, and the asphalt will fail, and tomorrow it fails, and you say the engineer has not done a good job. We can talk all day long on this.
Yeah, I think you need to come back again
We can talk all day
the
long
segment to continue.
Yes, sir.
And with that, we have come to the end of today's edition of the program. Our guest has been the acting head of Civil Engineering Department of the African University of Science and Technology, Dr. Olusegun Toluyi. Doctor, we thank you for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
I am Ile Emeje saying join us again next time for another interesting episode of your program, God's Will. Have a nice day.